Okay, it's showtime, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. I am Trudy Murata, a volunteer community ambassador with AARP Virginia, and welcome to AARP Virginia's Social Security Workshop. Thank you for joining us. This program is scheduled to run for about an hour, but we may finish a bit early or stay a few minutes longer, depending on how many questions you submit. If you would, put your questions in the Q&A box. That makes it easier for us to identify them and get your questions asked. AERP created this workshop because we are committed to helping you understand the ins and outs of your Social Security benefit. This Social Security workshop will help you learn how to secure your benefits and better understand the importance of Social Security claiming decisions, as well as explore the future of Social Security. AARP wants you to have the answers so that when you are thinking about retirement, you are confident in making a decision that is right for you. In the follow-up email from today's session, we will include a link to download the slide presentation, rewatch the recording, and all of the links to any of the websites that we share with you this evening. But before we begin, we know that many of you may be worried and concerned about the future of Social Security. And AARP is hearing from thousands of older Americans who are confused and concerned about the future of Social Security. Social Security is your money. You earned it through a lifetime of hard work. And for 65 years, we have worked with every White House and every Congress on both sides of the aisle to improve the lives of older Americans, and we will continue to fight for you. AARP has your back, and we will continue to be fierce advocates for you with members of Congress and the administration. So rest assured, we will never stop fighting to protect the interests of Americans that are 50 plus. I am thrilled to be joined this evening by Pamela Sams. Like me, Pamela is also an AARP Virginia volunteer community ambassador, and we are so fortunate to have her on our team. Pam is a chartered retirement planning counselor, and she's spent the last 23 years helping people improve their personal and financial wealth through solid financial life planning. Pamela is a strong advocate. Sorry, I'm having trouble talking tonight. Pamela is a strong advocate for financial literacy, and she voluntarily conducts financial education seminars and workshops on behalf of AARP. While Pamela is indeed a financial planning professional, her role here this evening is to provide general guidance, not specific advice or recommendations, but hopefully the information we share with you and the resources we share with you will help you to make informed decisions about your financial future. And so with that, I will stop talking and turn the platform over to Pamela. Pamela, it's all yours.
Thank you very much, Trudy. Yeah, I think we're probably all just going to be a little bit rusty. We had a summer off, and we're back at it here, but definitely here to provide as much information as we can about understanding Social Security. I think we had a raised hand again. We are using the Q&A feature tonight on the webinar format. So James, we would not be able to recognize the raised hand, but if you have a question about it, just go ahead and throw that in the Q&A, and we'll get to that at the end of the presentation. But hello and welcome. My name is Pamela Sams. As Trudy had mentioned before, I am a community ambassador with AARP Virginia, and I look forward to facilitating tonight's conversation about understanding your Social Security payments. So the agenda, as Trudy mentioned, we did create, ARP created the workshop because we are committed to helping you understand your Social Security payments and your benefits. So in this session, we're going to cover a lot of ground. We're going to discuss what Social Security is, full and early and delayed retirement payments, We're going to talk about Social Security and work because that's what people ask a lot of time. Can I get Social Security and still work? So we're going to talk about that. Family payments because there are some people could get Social Security on your record. So we'll talk about family payments, how to apply because that's a big thing. People are like, well, how do I apply for Social Security? So we'll go over that. And we'll have tons of resources as we go throughout the webinar that you could tap into. Again, all of the information is recorded. You will receive that in a follow-up email. So you'll have tons of resources to look back on for that. And then we'll talk about the future of Social Security because I'm sure a lot of people are curious about that. So, just kind of go over some history. So, Social Security was created in 1935 in the aftermath of the 1929 stock market crash and the Great Depression. It is based on a concept of social insurance, which means all workers contribute to a central trust fund that is managed by the government. Almost all employees or everyone who contributes to Social Security Trust Fund, um, the Social Security is taxed. So when you see on your paycheck, you'll see FICA. A lot of people don't know what it actually stands for, but it is a Federal Insurance Contribution Act. That's what FICA stands for. So when FICA comes for you on your paycheck, a portion of that tax is paid by the employee as well as the employer to fund Social Security and Medicare. So the current rate of Social Security is 6.2% for the employer and also 6.2% for the employee for a total of 12.4% that goes into the Social Security Trust Fund. To be eligible to collect retirement payments, a worker must have worked for at least 10 years or have earned 40 credits or 40 quarters. A lot of times people may hear the 40 quarters, and also paid into the Social Security taxes. Social Security Trust Fund is used to provide payments to individuals who are retired, disabled, also survivor of a deceased worker. Social Security has never always intended to be the safety net to provide some income for people, but it was never intended to be the only source of income in retirement. Now, despite this, many recipients are using it for most or all of their income, unfortunately. So let's talk a little bit about what the average Social Security payment is. So we have a poll, just to shake it up a little bit earlier on in our presentation. So what do you think the average Social Security payment is? So we can go ahead and launch that poll. What do you think the average Social Security benefit is? Okay, and we're off to the
Mm.
races. We got some things going on.
Do, do, do,
Yeah,
do,
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 do, do,
do,
do.
do.
Okay, we
We
look like
have
we're slowing down a little bit.
we've
So,
got
mhm.
76 folks, 78 folks participating,
Okay.
and they are thinking that the average benefit is 1,304 at 57%.
At 57%. So 1,304 is the
Mhm.
winner, right? Is that what we're hearing, Trudy?
That's what we're seeing.
Oops, sorry. Let's go back to our poll.
Is that the correct answer?
I know, drum roll, please. If you have chose, I know,
I made the
a
wrong
lot
one.
of you chose the option. I'm sure, the most popular one was B, which was 1304. But the correct answer for 2025 is actually option C, which is 1,976. That is the correct answer. Way back when in college or in high school, you had the Scantrons. Always pick C because that's kind of how the answer turned out to be. But thank you very much for playing those people who had picked A and B, but C is the correct answer. Now, remember, that's the average for all types of Social Security payments. That's individual, that's also spousal, that's survivor, and also disability. Now, your own payment might differ, of course, considerably based on your situation and what types of payments that you are collecting for either retirement payments or some of the other payments that Social Security pays out. So, how much you paid into Social Security is really just going to depend on your own record. Uh, so we had that. So we finished the poll. So you will need to make right Social Security decision for your individual situation, and we are, of course, here to help in this presentation to tell you a little bit about how that works. Now, let's look at some factors that may affect the amount of payments that you will receive in Social Security. So let's take a look at that. So when can you claim your Social Security payments? So the earliest that you can take or claim Social Security is at age 62. But your monthly payment amount will be reduced by as much as 30%. This reduction is a permanent reduction if you do take it early. This will include any survivor payments for your family that may be eligible for your benefit. So it is really important to consider how the decision not only impacts your Social Security benefits, but anybody who may collect on your record as well if you pass away. So Social Security early, beginning age 62. You can also receive your full retirement amount. When you receive your Social Security statement, it'll have FRA because the government loves these acronyms. So, but it means your full retirement age. Or normal or full retirement age is where it could be. Now, it's going to be somewhere between 66 and 67. It is depending on the year you were born. You get 100% of your payment if you do claim at your full retirement age. So we have early at 62. We have your full benefit, that 100% payment, full payment at age 66 and 67. So depending on where you have on your statement, you may see 66 in 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, and so on and so forth, all the way till you get to 67. Then you also have delayed credits, and what they call beyond the full retirement age is called delayed credits. Now, this does increase the payment amount by about 8% for each year up to age 70. 70 is the latest that you can take Social Security benefits. So between, let's say, 66 or 67, it grows 8% each year with those delayed credits all the way up to age 70. So depending on how you feel about Social Security and also what type of other resources you have in Social Security, it could pay it could pay the weight and get that extra 8% per year. So exactly when is your full retirement age? As I mentioned before, it goes by increments. So the important date is really to look at the age of which you will receive your full benefits. So if the first one is 66, if you were born between 1943 and 54, your full retirement age is 66 and so on and so forth. Like I said, all the way up to 67 if you were born 1960 or later. That's your full retirement age. So as I mentioned before, the gradual 2 months, 4 months. So you have to kind of see where you are in the scheme of things. So on the left, you have your birth year, and then on the corresponding your full retirement column and where you will be eligible for. So let's look at how the claiming age really affects your monthly benefit amount or your monthly amount. So in this example, let's assume that this individual claimed at their full retirement age, which is age 66. So we can see the full retirement age there at 66 in the gray, that's 1900 per month. If the person decided to collect early at age 62, we can see that reduction there at 1425 on all the way to your left. But if you wait till age 70, all the way to your far right, you can see how the benefit has increased up to 2508 with the difference. So deciding when to claim is a personal decision that only you can make. Social Security Administration is not into the really giving you financial advice and telling you when to claim. You'll have those benchmarks, the 62, your 66 or 67, and your full retirement and your delayed credits at 70. But consider some of the factors, of course, would be your health, how much savings you have, what your expenses look like, and then really how the decision is going to impact your family overall if, unfortunately, you pass away and what the survivor benefit would be. Now, remember though, the impact of claiming age isn't just your own retirement payment. Really want to stress that the survivor payments and your family members might receive or outlive you. You need to consider that in the factor or factor that into your decision on when to claim Social Security. So let's talk a little bit about when to file for Social Security. So what should you consider when making the decision on when to file for Social Security? Um, can someone who has never paid into Social Security still collect payments? When should you file Social Security payments? Can you work and collect Social Security at the same time? Do you have any suggestions or for consideration? So, if we were to, just kind of throw something in the chat, what do you think would be some of the considerations when making the decision to file Social Security? And I'm just going to have Trudy just kind of, chime in and see what people are putting into the Q&A or the chat, whichever one you were using. Some of the things to consider when you are making that decision to file for Social Security. A little audience participation. Any takers on this Tuesday evening?
Okay. Some of the comments that we're getting are, how much do you have in savings?
Mm-hmm.
Can you anticipate when you might no longer be with us?
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
If
If
I
anybody
phrase,
had a crystal ball on that one, you just let me
I,
know.
I phrased that a little bit more politically correct than it came to me. Do
Yes.
you have backup income? Are you
Okay.
tired of working?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to travel?
Okay.
Are you planning, or do you need to make renovations to stay in your home long term?
Okay.
And yes, health is always a
As always.
consideration.
Exactly. Exactly. And all of those are definitely really good points to make when to file for Social Security benefits. Again, it is a personal decision. So, if you're working with an advisor or if you're working with someone, you kind of work that out to see what your other resources you do have. Are you going to continue to work? And we're going to definitely talk about that in a minute because that will affect your overall benefit and how they would end up taxing it or taking some monies away if you're still working. So we'll go through that. But thank you very much for some audience participation there. I appreciate it. So, ways to estimate your Social Security payment. So, they're encouraging you to go online. Of course, they used to send out the green and white statements close to your birthday. You has all of the numbers on there. The three numbers to consider, of course, as I mentioned before, age 62, age 66 or 67, depending on what your full retirement age is, and age 70. So those numbers will be highlighted on your Social Security statement that you receive if you're over 60. So they're still sending out the statements, green and white statements, if you're over 60. If you're under 60, they really encourage you to go online to my Social Security account. So my SSA login.gov, or you can also complete a form. That's old school, but you can complete a form at SSA 7004. You can also call the 800 number, 800 772 1213. And again, you will receive your statements if you are over 60 and not started your payments yet. That's how they're going to send it to you. So that's the way you can kind of figure out where you fall in terms of your Social Security payments. Now, if you are close to retirement, I always suggest kind of putting on my little advisor hat, though I'm not going to get too much into it, but this is the time where you really want to scrutinize your Social Security statement or you go online. If you were within, I would probably say 5 years of retirement because you want to know if you're going to start claiming benefits if those numbers are accurate. If there's numbers that are missing, are there years that are that you were working and it's not adding up? There may be some zeros or jobs missing or whatever the case may be. This is where you want to start really analyzing your Social Security statement. If there are discrepancies in it, contact the Social Security Administration and let them know that, hey, there are some discrepancies in my work record before they calculate that number because they could recalculate it for you. You could end up getting a little bit more money with that. So if you're within that window of retirement, start collecting your Social Security statements, analyzing them to make sure they are accurate. But that's the way you would find out what your Social Security payments would be. So, cost of living adjustment and wage caps. Of course, one thing to keep in mind when you're estimating the amount that you're going to receive for Social Security is the cost of living, or COLA, each year. So, each year, the amount you receive for Social Security will be adjusted according to inflation. So, in 2025, this year, the COLA was 2.5%. That works out to about $50 monthly raise for your Social Security or average Social Security retirement payment. Additionally, it's also important to consider that currently there's a wage cap or on tax earnings for tax earnings. So in 2025, that means workers only pay FICA, FICA for the first 175,100 of their income. After that, Social Security, the FICA tax stops. And then basically, in essence, you get a little bit of a raise. So let's say later in the year, here we're in September, October, you hit that 176, 100. FICA's going to stop. And then it looks like your paycheck's a little bit more. No, you didn't get a raise. They just stopped taking out FICA on that. So if you have more than one job, of course, your employers are required to withhold FICA taxes. So you'll have to request a refund of any taxes on income above the wage cap when you file for your taxes. Okay. So that's COLA and your wage cap. So collecting Social Security while you're working. Like I said before, this is the biggie that a lot of people ask on, can I, get Social Security while working? So this is how it works. So for people who have reached full retirement age, I want you to cover your ears up for a little bit because this is not going to pertain to you. This is people who have not reached their full retirement age and still want to work and considering taking Social Security. Okay. So before you claim your Social Security payments before your full retirement age, you should know that claiming early and continuing to work, you're going to be subject to what they call the Social Security earnings limit. So in this scenario, your payments will be reduced by $1 for every $2 that you earn above the earnings limit. This increases the months prior to your reaching your full retirement age, and your payments will be reduced by $1 for every $3 that you earn above the limit. Note that these limits do adjust, of course, by inflation yearly. So in 2025, the Social Security earnings limit is 24,400 for people who have not reached their full retirement age. 62,160 for people who will reach their full retirement age during that year. So if you file early, then your full retirement age, you're only allowed to make up to 23,400 before the earnings limit kicks in, and then the reduction of the dollar for every two kicks in, and then $1 for every three if you're above 62,160. Now, however, if you do claim Social Security payments before your real full retirement age, say that real fast, 4 times real fast, you keep working, some of the payment reductions will be returned back to you in the form of higher payments. So they're not just going to slice you and then deduct your payments without you getting it back. They're going to put it back on the back end and readjust your monthly payments after you have reached your full retirement age when you do decide to claim Social Security. So all is not lost. You're going to just get it back in the form of higher payments later. Now, once you have reached your full retirement age, your earning limit no longer applies. So you can work as much as you want to, and the earning limit is not going to affect you at all. That's why I told people to, do your earmuffs, and for people who are already reached full retirement age and want to work, this does not pertain to you. This is earlier to people who want to file earlier than their full retirement age. Keep that in mind. The reduction and the Social Security earnings limit falling into that. Now they do adjust that number each year. So 2025 is 23,400 and 62,160 in the year that you do reach your full retirement age. Okay, so remember those numbers. But of course, like I said, they do adjust each year. So 2025 is those numbers. So who can collect on your record? There's a lot of people that can collect on your record. There are children, there are spouses, there's ex-spouses, believe it or not. A lot of people did not know that. And then there's also survivors. So these are people who could collect on your record as well. So let's move on to these family payments. So when you start receiving your Social Security retirement payments, some members could qualify, as I mentioned before. So let's go through each of those groups now to show you how those work. So with children's payments, if the child of a retired or deceased or disabled worker can, in many cases, collect Social Security payments on their parents' earning record. Social Security incorporates children into this payment structure to help retirees with either younger children, provide for their families as a form of insurance when a parent dies or cannot work because of a disability. Within the family, each child does qualify and may receive a monthly payment up to half of the parent's full retirement age payment. I'm sorry, full payment. So to be eligible, these are the criteria. A child must have certain qualifications. For children to receive payments, they must be unmarried, under the age of 18, or 18 to 19 years old as a full-time student, no higher than grade 12, or 18 or older, disabled from a disability, and that started before the age of 22. So those are the criteria for children payment. However, of course, there is a family limit that the amount of Social Security pays into to all of the family members as a unit, so children as others, so it's kind of a composite. So the total depends on the payment amount that the number of family members who also qualify on their own record. So it's going to vary, of course, but generally the total amount for the family unit, children, let's say spouse, children, perhaps aging parents that you may be taking care of that rely on your income as well, is between 150% to 180% of your full retirement age payment. Okay. So that's how your children's payments are calculated. So if you don't have enough Social Security credits and you get payments on your own work record, or your own work record is a little bit lower, is too small, you may also be able to receive payments on your spouse's record. Now, it is important to note that both you and your spouse are eligible for Social Security payments on your own record, of course. Social Security will pay whichever is higher, but not both. So they're going to look at your Social Security payment, what that amount could be, and then they'll look at your spouse's. And then, depending on if the 50% of the workers' full retirement age amount is higher than your own record, they're going to give that to you. Okay. Eligible spouses are generally, as I mentioned before, 50% of the eligible workers for retirement pay age payment amount. Even if the working spouse collects early, the spousal payment will still be a portion of the worker's full retirement age payment. Okay, so that's the only difference there. If you are still married, you can also file for spousal payments on the working spouse has filed for their own payment. Now, with divorce or ex spouses, I'm going to go a little bit into that on the next slide. But if you are married for at least 1 year, age 62 or older, you can also claim at any age if you are caring for a child under age 16 with a disability who is entitled to payments on your spouse's record. Moving on to ex-spouses payments. So ex-spouses can also receive payments on their former spouse's record. This is a whole pot of money the Social Security Administration has. This does not negate any Social Security payments that your former spouse or ex-spouse would receive. This is a whole separate amount. You don't have to contact them at all. You just contact the Social Security Administration, but you do have to have certain criteria. Okay. So if you're married for at least 10 years, ex-spouses can file at any time beginning at age 62. Do not need to notify, as I mentioned before, the ex-spouse to file. Eligible ex-spouses can generally receive up to the 50% of eligible workers' full retirement age payment amount. Even if the former spouse collects early, the ex-spouse payments will also be a portion of the former spouse's full retirement age payment. Ex-spouse payments do not affect the ex-spouse payment amount, as I mentioned before, nor the payment amount of a new spouse that they may have should they have remarried. Now, here are the criteria, of course. You're eligible to receive these payments on an ex-spouse record if you ex-spouse receive his or her own Social Security payment or at least 62. You have been divorced for at least 2 years. You're at least 62 and you have not remarried. That's the thing. If it is important to note that both you and your ex-spouse are eligible for those Social Security payments on your own record, Social Security again will pay you whichever amount is higher, but not both. So again, you go say, I'm also eligible for ex-spousal payment. I also have my own record. They'll take a look at it and they'll determine which is higher and give that to you. Moving on to survivor payments. So, in the event of a spouse's death, a survivor can collect up to 100% of the payment of the deceased was receiving or would have received in the future. So, this will include any delayed retirement credits the deceased spouse would have earned. So, however, it also includes a reduction if the deceased spouse claimed early. That's what I was talking about before. Remember the spousal payments. If you decide to collect early, that's also going to affect the survivor payments. Survivor payments can be claimed as early as age 60, 50 if disabled, but they will be reduced. They can be claimed at any age if the survivor is caring for an entitled child. And we talked a little bit about the if a child has a disability, that's what they consider entitled child. Dependent parents are also able to collect if the deceased parents can show that they had relied on their child for at least half of their support if you were caring for an aging parent. Ex-spouses can also be eligible for former spouses for at least age 60, 50 if you're disabled, if they are married for at least 10 years and they have not remarried unless they have remarried after age 60. So that's the difference. So if you reach age 60, there's not going to be the remarried situation. So a lot of people make life choices on Social Security and when to remarry and not remarry. So survivor payments are only reduced based on when the survivor payment itself is claimed. So in many situations, the surviving spouse can continue collecting on their own record, allow their survivor payment to grow until they reach full retirement age and then make a switch. Okay, so you can make that, but still subject to the earnings limit if they haven't reached the full retirement age and continue to work. So if you take your survivor benefit, just know that there is still an earnings limit there. You may want to take it and then let it grow a little bit, but consider where you are in the scheme of things with your own full retirement age. So remarried survivor payments. So let's take a minute to talk a little bit about how remarrying affects Social Security payments. So if you do remarry before age 60, 50 if you're disabled, then you can't receive any survivor benefits while you are married. If you remarry after age 60, 50 if you are disabled, then you can continue to qualify for payments on your deceased spouse's record. So before 60, after 60, think about it, consider it. However, if you are a current or new spouse is a Social Security beneficiary, you may want to apply for the spouse's payment on his or her record. And if that amount is more than the widow or widower's payment, you will receive a combination of payments that equal the higher amount. Okay, so that's kind of how remarrying works there. So take a look at that. Applying for Social Security benefits. This is how people apply for it. So now I'm eligible for Social Security. Now I want to apply for it. How do I go about doing that? So there are several ways that you can apply for Social Security. With any of the options you can apply for, do consider it is up to 4 months prior to when you want to receive repayments. It's not like I apply and I'm going to receive a check tomorrow. 4 months, consider it 4 months before you will begin receiving your monthly payments. So if you want it now, let's say we're in September, probably January is when you would probably get your first check. October, November, December, January. Yeah, probably January. So you can apply online by creating a login at myssa.gov. The login.gov is also there, but it's called the My Social Security account, which is useful for several things, of course, including when you receive your earnings statement. So when you log in, create username, password, you'll have your basically in essence Social Security statement that you can take a look at, show what your earnings records was going to be, get your estimates at various ages. It also estimate your disability payments and so much more there. And once you're eligible to apply, you can also do that via the My Social Security account there at login.gov to receive payments. You can also call the 800 number at 800-772-1213. There's a TDY number there. And I've also, you can go in person at a field office at ssa.gov/locator to find a field office near you. Just to let you know, those field offices are pretty crowded. So, I would consider, doing it online or calling the number if you can, before that. Um, just a side note, kind of a sidebar to this. If there are any issues that you may have had with identity theft, somebody stole your social security number, been charged, whatever the case may be, Social Security Administration has probably when you go on to ssa.gov or login.gov, will probably kind of ping you and say, hey, something's going on with your social security. They're not going to let you do anything. They're not going to let you apply. So if you had some things like that going on in the past, make sure those are cleared up before you want to apply for social security, because that could prevent you from doing that online. They may require you to do more of a field office situation to verify you are who you say you are. Okay. Talk a little bit about the Social Security Fairness Act. This is recent. So in 2025 of this year, Social Security Fairness Act came into play. It repealed two provisions. One was the windfall elimination provision, which is the WEP, and also the government pension offset, GPO. So you know who you are, people, if you're out there listening. If you fell into one of these categories and you were into a part where, at some point you weren't eligible for Social Security, or Social Security was reduced so much because you fell into either a WEP or a GPO situation, it has been cleared and rectified for you. So these provisions previously reduced the Social Security payments for individuals who had received a pretty substantial pension from jobs not covered by Social Security. Generally, teachers, firefighters, government workers, police officers fell into this category. So the new law impacts approximately 3 million current retirees, their spouses, ex-spouses, surviving spouses. If you did work with a public sector job and received a pension, you are likely affected by this change. So the law is retroactive to January 1st of 2025, meaning that your maybe eligible recipients will receive back payments for 2024. So you could get a nice chunk of change, lump sum, from the repeal or the Fairness Act. Their Social Security payments will be adjusted, of course, accordingly to include the increased payments going forward. The Social Security Administration and Congress are still in the process of determining really how to finalize the payment increase. So for right now, it is enacted, and they're in the process of figuring out how to get those payments to people who may have been affected by WEP or GPO. If you believe you are eligible to receive the increased payments, you should do the following. Number one, update your information. So ensure your mailing address is correct, your direct deposit information with Social Security Administration are all up to date. Also, set up the My SSA account at login.gov. If you already have the My SSA account, monitor it for any updates for the Social Security Administration about any increased payments that are coming to you. So let's talk a little bit about the future of Social Security, probably the elephant in the room, right? So right now, Social Security is in good financial shape. Now, however, according to the annual report that was released by the trustees in June of this year, 2025, the two Social Security trust funds that act as the reserves for the program will be depleted by 2034. The population has changed, of course, working and living longer. So consider that in 1950, there were approximately 16 workers contributing to FICA per person receiving payments, but that in 2035, there will only be 2.3 workers contributing to FICA per person receiving payments. So that's a huge, huge, huge difference. And that's why, we need to act now to ensure Social Security is going to be there. So that means that after the year 2034, Social Security will only be able to pay about 81% of the payments recipients are scheduled to receive. Now, policymakers, of course, will have to act to address the future payment shortfalls, and the longer they wait, of course, the harder the choice is going to be, not kicking down the can, hopefully. But ARP is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization. We have developed these guiding principles to really fight and protect Social Security in alignment with the mission that ARP has, and believes that any proposal should finance Social Security for the long term. Of course, Social Security should continue to should provide a stable foundation for retirement income for workers, families, and are affected by death and also disability. Social Security should also continue to protect those that are most in need, including the people who are the most reliant on Social Security and those who cannot really postpone retirement. or Social Security being their only source of income. Any proposals should also continue to reward work by ensuring that all workers are contributing equitably and receive payments based on their earnings, and really ensure that worker payments are clearly defined, cannot outlive, and are protected against inflation. Any proposal should also make improvements to address the economic and demographic changes over the last 90 years so that Social Security can meet the needs of future recipients and their families. And of course, any changes to Social Security should protect the current recipients and those near retirement to make any gradual or changes fairly. So AARP is definitely fighting to protect Social Security because you have earned it. There are definitely ways to get involved. AARP .org / get involved. Really advocate for the protection of Social Security. So, as I mentioned before, Congress does have several options to address the program's long term fiscal challenges. For example, here are 5 potential solutions to make sure that Social Security can pay out 100% of any earned payments to anyone who is eligible for generations to come. um, Eliminate or raise the wage cap. That has definitely been on the table. Increase the payroll tax rate. Reduce any payments for higher income earners. Raise the full retirement age. That has been done in the past. Utilize any other funding. And of course, you can learn more at our free resources, Council for Economic Education, and also the Academy, American Academy for Actuaries, for more information. Okay. All right. So your questions answered. So you might remember that we discussed the place where you can have all of your Social Security questions answered at the beginning of this presentation. Of course, I'm going to take questions at the end of this presentation, but AARP also has a tool called Your Questions Answered, where you can either search for the answers to questions, the most common, FAQs, ask a question on your own. You'll also receive personal answers via email within a few days from that. So to search for answers, you can just select Social Security from the drop-down box at the top of the page. You can either scroll through the FAQs, frequently asked Social Security questions, to find out if anything matches yours, or you can also either put your own questions into the dialog box. You do need to have a current AARP.org login to really utilize the tool. You will need to be logged into the website to submit your questions. And if you do submit a unique question, you will, again, like I said, receive an answer within 2 to 3 business days from a Social Security expert. So you can find the tool at Your Questions Answered, AARP.org / Social Security. Okay, so you have that. So with that, we will go ahead and open up the lines for questions from this presentation, and then see what we have before we wrap up. Any questions, ladies?
Oh, Pamela. I'll do a couple of the easy ones from the Q&A box first.
Okay.
Is Social Security taxed? And if so, is it taxed differently than wages?
Mm-hmm. Social Security, they added on to basically your taxes what they call a provisional income. So everything is kind of put into your income, and then a portion of your Social Security could be taxed up to 85%, depending on your adjusted gross income. So you do have to work with your tax professional. They're going to calculate all of your income sources, and then they will let you know what portion of your Social Security may be taxable. But it is taxed, and it is generally up to 85%. That is taxed on
Okay.
your benefit amount.
Okay. Regarding applying for Social Security benefits 4 months before the first check,
Mm-hmm.
one of our guests will be 62 in November.
Okay.
Can he apply now, or does he have to wait until he is actually 62 to apply?
Mm-hmm. Um, it's the year you turn 62. So if you want it within that 4 months, you can go ahead and apply for it, knowing that it's gonna take some time for processing. So you can go ahead within the year you turn 62, you're able to go ahead and apply for
Okay.
benefits.
So he turns 62 in November, 2 months from now.
Hmm.
He can apply now,
Hmm.
and his first benefit will be paid in 4 months from now.
Hmm. Correct.
Okay. My scrolling button is giving me fits today.
I got you. Okay.
Okay. When applying for benefits, can you specify what month you want your payments to begin?
Hmm. Um, Generally not. It's based on on a schedule. And when you work with the Social Security Administration, they'll let you know. So if you apply at a certain time of the month, it's generally going to be the 15th or the 1st. And then it's generally the 4 months after you have applied for within 4 months. It doesn't have to be exactly 4 months, but they kind of give you a time frame on when that is. But it's a timing issue on what your birthday is and what day of your birthday is and when you will receive your social security check. So it's really um not able to really specify when you want it. It is a formula the way they work it out on
But you're, but
when they
you're
send out the checks.
from the time that you apply, it is 4 months. So like the gentleman who's
Hmm.
going to be 62 in November,
Hmm.
if he doesn't want his first benefit to come 4 months after November, he should wait until
Hmm.
December or January to
Hmm.
delay it by that 1 or 2 months, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm. Yep.
I think I think we've got them covered.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I may need further clarification on this, but I'm gonna give it to you,
Okay.
Pamela, and see
Okay.
if you understand it. We
Hmm.
have one guest in the room who is a 100% disabled veteran.
Hmm.
How does that transfer to Social Security disability benefits?
Hmm. Yeah, that one is a little different. If you were receiving disability, they kind of integrate those two together. So if you're receiving disability benefits, um, again, they're going to take a look at what you're receiving for disability, what your normal or full retirement age benefit will be, and then they'll kind of integrate where you're receiving for what Social Security benefit payments and your disability. So it's an integration, but you definitely want to work with the Social Security Administration to see where your benefits fall on in
Okay.
terms of what's going to be higher or not.
Okay.
Hmm.
I do also want to say thank you for your service to that
Yep.
individual
Thank you
as
for your
well.
service.
So,
Hmm.
and hopefully that answers that question. Um, I am currently 60. I
Hmm.
plan to retire at 62.
Hmm.
When is the best time to apply for Social Security benefits?
Hmm. Um, Again, that is a little bit of a personal question, because if you're going to stop working completely, are you going to take Social Security right when you reach 62? Do you have other resources? Or are you going to wait till full retirement age? But if you do, again, kind of back to the 4 months before you're age 62, or when you reach 62, the 4 months that you want to wait to receive benefits, it's going to be a timing issue if you plan to retire at 62 and when you want your first paycheck with that. But just kind of figure out the timing of it and consider that 4 month interval as you apply for Social Security benefits.
Okay. Pam, can you flip it back to
Yes.
the chart that
Mm-hmm.
has the dollar amount associated with each one of those years? I think that might
Yes.
put that in perspective for that individual. And please
Mm-hmm.
keep in mind that all of the slides will be given to you in the follow-up email along with the recording. I was thinking of the next one that had the
Which one? The reduction
um that one.
or
Yes.
this one? Yes.
Yes. If we can just leave that up for a
Okay.
minute, I
Mm-hmm.
think that might be a visual that will help that individual with their question.
Correct.
What is the difference between Social Security and Social Security disability?
Mm-hmm. So if you prior to age 62, you become disabled, you're eligible for Social Security benefits. And then they calculate it a certain way based on a percentage of how long you have worked, you became disabled. So it's a whole process with Social Security disability. So it's called SSDI. So that's part of what Social Security would pay. As I mentioned before in the presentation, there's child payments, there's spousal payments, there's disability payments, there's retirement payments. So it's all part of the whole Social Security program. So SSDI is separate. Your Social Security retirement payments are separate. What the children will get kind of falls into the Social Security payments of what the parent will receive. So that's kind of the differences. They're just basically different programs within inside of the Social Security administration programs available to you.
Okay. Pamela, I'm going to ask you one more question, then I'm going to ask, we have Colleen Cecil assisting us tonight. Colleen, I'm going to ask Pam one more question, and then could you scroll through the chat and see if you see any questions that we haven't answered already? So my first question to Pamela is there a limit to a working income in order to collect Social Security? This individual is an independent contractor.
Mm-hmm. Is there, I'm sorry, income limit?
Is there a limit to a working income in order to collect Social Security?
Um, I mean, technically it would fall into if you're, let's say, if they're independent contractor, let's say they're paying their themselves a wage, then they're responsible for the kind of both the employee and the employer part of the FICA tax. So if you've paid into it that way, you will probably fall under that 176, 160 in terms of the FICA part of that. So that would be the income limits that you would be need to adhere to if you are paying yourself a salary as a W-2 through FICA, if that answers the question.
If it doesn't, I will ask them to
Okay.
re-ask in a different format. Okay.
Okay.
Um, Colleen, do you have anything to ask from the chat?
Sure, there's a couple here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When can your spouse collect half of your benefit when you reach retirement age, even if you're not collecting, or only if you have already started collecting after the FRA?
Mm-hmm. So they used to have a situation where you can do what they call file and suspend, where if the spouse wanted to open up the window, so to speak, for their spouse to go ahead and claim, and then suspend their what they call basically application, then they were allowed to do that. They stopped that a while ago. So in order to a spouse to receive payments on a spouse's record, the spouse does now have to be eligible and file for Social Security before that opens up the spouse's 50% for that.
Okay. Thank you, Pamela.
Mm-hmm.
I have another one, and part of what you've been talking about, I think may have answered this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Okay.
I was born in 1959.
Mm-hmm.
In December of 2025, I'll be 66 years old and
Okay.
10 months. I,
Yep.
I still work full time and can't afford to live on Social Security only. I still need to work full time. What do I need to do? File now for December 2025? And what would that process be? What do I need to
Mm-hmm.
tell my employer?
So 1955,
1959.
59. Okay. So 66 and 10 months, or are
Yes,
they at 66 and they're
66 and
60?
10 months.
Okay, full retirement age, and they
Yeah.
plan to retire or continue to work.
They want to continue to work.
Okay, then you would not have a reduction once you reach your full retirement age in working. So you can continue to receive full retirement. I mean, sorry, your full retirement benefit, and you can continue to work without the reduction.
Do you have to notify your employer of that?
Oh, no, no, no,
Okay.
you don't have to. No, no, this is a whole separate thing. When you apply for Social Security, with that, so you can receive those benefits, and the employer doesn't have to know any of that.
Okay. Trudy, you want to come back?
Yeah, Pamela, along that same line, is
Mhm.
there a limit as to how much they can earn and collect Social Security at the same time? I'm thinking about this particular case where
Mhm.
she is still working,
Mhm.
but is there a limit as to how much she can earn working
Yeah, so after you reach for retirement age, there's no earnings limit test at that point. Now, what
after full retirement
after
age?
full retirement age, yeah, they're not going to reduce it, and the earnings limit doesn't apply. But what would happen is that if she continues to work, of course, that limit where they won't take out the FICA is still at 176, 160. That's still going to apply because they're still going to take out Social Security tax out of your check. They're still going to take FICA out, even though you're working and you're receiving Social Security. So at some point when you do retire, they'll just recalculate your Social Security benefit because you're still contributing to the program through FICA taxes. So they're just going to adjust it down the road later, if that makes sense.
Okay. I'm hoping it does. If it doesn't, please feel free to re-ask the question.
Okay.
Okay. Um, let's talk about being eligible as an ex-spouse. I've got a couple of questions here that I'll
Okay.
refer to.
Yes, the
Um,
ex-spouse, all questions always pop up. Okay. Okay. Yes.
um, so if you are eligible as an ex-spouse,
Hmm.
that will come up as a result of your um, beginning the application process.
Yes. If you're filing on an ex-spouse's record. Again, if you if you're eligible for Social Security in a variety of different ways, you have your ex-spouse's benefit, you have your own record, you could also have a survivor benefit. Social Security Administration is going to look at whichever one is higher and kind of give those to you. So the thing is making sure you have the criteria and the eligibility. You're at least 62. You've been married for at least 10 years. You can file at any time, but remember you are also subject to the earnings test if you do receive payments before your full retirement age. So there could also be a reduction there. But yeah, you can file at any time. Just know where you fall into the criteria of that um, when you file for ex spouse payments.
Will Social Security divulge what the ex-spouse's Social Security payment is to compare?
They will calculate the benefit. So you do have to have, of course, their social security number. You probably still have that. And then they look it up for you, and then they make the calculation, and they let you know what the benefit, and they'll run a report for you. So I have clients do that all the time, either on an ex-spouse or widower benefit. They will kind of run both numbers, and they'll kind of work it. This is your own record. This is what your ex-spouse's record would be, payment would be, and this is what, let's say, your widower survivor benefit would be, and you can kind of compare it in columns. So they do run a nice report for you, so you can kind of take a look at it.
Okay. Um, can we pull up the screen with regard to children with disabilities?
Mm-hmm.
I think that might be helpful in answering this question. The
Okay.
question simply says, does the disabled child over 18 have to qualify for Social Security disability?
No, no. They're going to receive based on well, if they're receiving it on their parents' record. This is this is what this can pertains to. This is
Okay.
not, SSDI that they have on their own. So basically, if they are disabled prior to age 22, more than likely, if they are, they may be receiving some SSDI anyway. But this is based on the the parent's record if a parent passed away, what the child would be eligible for.
Okay. Colleen, let me come back to you for something here while I see whether we've answered some of the other questions that are in Q&A. Can I come back to you for a minute?
Sure. I have a question about, so if I collect my deceased spouse's Social Security now,
Mm-hmm.
can I collect mine too when I retire?
Yes. So you would collect your survivor payment now. Again, you can go ahead and claim it, and then you will be able to let yours grow, and then you can make a switch down the road if yours is going to be higher down the road. So definitely take a look at what that can be, those numbers. Again, your survivor payments is subject to earnings limit. So if you are receiving it and you are still working, it's going to have that reduction if you have not reached your full retirement age and you do continue to work. So keep that in mind with that. But yes, you can receive a survivor benefit, let that your own record grow, and then you can make a switch down the road.
Go ahead, Trudy.
Okay. Just to re-clarify about the eligibility dates and
Okay.
the months before.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yes, and the months before.
Do you have to apply, even if not going to collect before age 65, or just the 4 months before you wish to collect, no matter what age?
Yeah, yeah. It's if you plan on not receiving benefits within a certain period of time, then yeah, you need to wait until at which time you want to start receiving benefits for that. Because your payments could change if you're still working and you contributing to it, they will adjust your benefit amount. So I wouldn't apply for it really early if you don't plan on taking it right away within that kind of that application period where they're processing it within that,
Okay.
let's say, 4-month window. Anything before that, or within a
Okay.
longer period, you might as well wait within the regular period of time to apply.
Okay. We are at the top of the hour. I'd like to ask you two more questions
Mhm.
before I need to call it quits.
Okay.
Um, I've been asked if you would revisit
Mhm.
your comment about, or your statement about, if taxes are taken out of Social Security. Can you repeat that?
Uh-huh.
Are Social Security benefits taxable?
Taxable, yes. So you can have your Social Security benefit tax. You can take taxes out and to receive whatever net of your Social Security benefit. But the way that it works is part of they work with a tax person, but they look at all of your what they call provisional income that goes on your 1040. That can be IRA distributions, it could be your Social Security, it could be your pension, whatever. And then based on what those percentages are, a certain portion of your Social Security benefit could be taxable. So that's kind of the way they look at it for that. But when you apply for Social Security benefits and you want to withhold taxes from your Social Security benefit, you are allowed to do that as well, just to make sure you don't shortchange yourself at tax time and then a portion of it is taxable and you didn't allow for that, um, the taxes to be taken out of your Social Security. So
Okay.
whatever tax rate you're at, definitely work with a tax professional when you start receiving benefits um, to let them, how much you want to withhold from your Social Security to cover any taxes that may be due at tax time.
Okay, we've got time for one more question, but Pam, could you
Mhm.
pull back up the
Yep.
slide about my questions answered?
My
So that
question's answered. Yep.
anyone,
Yep.
so that if we did not get to your question, this is where you can go to have your specific question
Mhm.
answered. Um, but the last question that I will give to you is, will the payment changes due to the Social Security Fairness Act be reflected in people's Social Security account now or at
Mhm.
some point in the future?
They are working through it. So it basically, once the act came out and they were like, hey, we need to, kind of go back to January 1st of 2024, you'll get a lump sum payment. You'll also get an increased payment, but they are working through it. So at some point, you will start receiving larger benefits. So probably sometime in the future, but it could be any time between now and sometime in the future. So they are working through that. It's going to be a lot of people, over, with the 3 million people that have been affected by those things. So just kind of
Right.
hold tight, if you are falling into that category, that it is on the way, but they're just kind of working through it. Mhm.
So let me first of all say thank you to you,
Mhm.
Pamela, for
Yeah.
sharing your time and your expertise with us.
Yes.
Colleen, thank you for helping and assisting me with the scrolling through the chat. Again, I apologize if we did not get to your specific question, but we've given you the information that you can ask your question directly and get a response within 2 to 3 days. And as I said before, we did record this program. A link to the recording will be in a follow-up email, as well as all of the slides in the PowerPoint for you to review. And we do run the Social Security program from time to time. So you can check out our calendar of events for when our next Social Security program will come up, or any other subjects that might be of interest to you by going to aarp.org/local. I do hope you found this evening's program informational for you and helpful. So until next time, we encourage you to continue thinking about and planning for your secure financial future. And hopefully we will see you again at another program at another point in time. Link to the recording will be in a follow-up email, usually within the next day or two. Thank you for joining us. Pamela, thank you.
Thank
Colleen,
you.
thanks for your help. Don, thanks for the behind the scenes technical support. Have a great evening, everybody. Thanks.
Thanks.